You think people make you angry? They don't. They only touch the part of you that's already wounded. And once you see this, no one will ever be able to control your mood again. Most people move through life under the strange illusion that others have the power to make them angry, that the noise and nonsense of the world somehow crawl inside and shake the calm from within. But that's rather like blaming the mirror for the expression on your face. The truth is, nobody can bother you. They can only touch the part of you that was already disturbed. And the more you fight it, the more entangled you become in the very net you're trying to escape. Peace doesn't come by stiffening against life, but by realizing there is no separate you to stiffen. The waves rise and fall, and the ocean never minds. In the same way, anger, irritation, and frustration come and go, but they are not you. To be unbothered is not to build a wall around yourself, but to see that there was never a separate self to defend in the first place. When something happens, a disrespectful word, a sudden disappointment, a rude interruption, there is a tiny instant before you react. Most people never notice it. They leap from stimulus to response like a spark from flint, and then wonder why they feel burned. But in that small space, that fraction of a moment before the mind begins to chatter, lies your freedom. That is the gap where life gives you the chance to wake up instead of merely react. The event itself is neutral, meaningless, until you assign it meaning. If someone calls you a fool, the insult only works if you believe in the fool they're speaking to. If you don't, the words vanish into thin air. So the real game is not about controlling what happens, because that's impossible, but watching what happens within you and realizing, I don't have to pick that thought up. Anger only asks for one thing: your participation. The moment you refuse to play, it dies of neglect. To react less is not weakness. It is the highest form of intelligence. It means you've remembered that you were never the puppet. One of the great sources of human misery is the quiet expectation that other people should know better, that they should behave sensibly, respectfully, predictably, even though they never agreed to follow your invisible rule book. They're simply playing their own game, unaware you expected them to dance to yours. And when they don't, when they forget, lie, interrupt, disappoint, we feel offended, as if the universe itself made a mistake. But it hasn't. That's just the mind insisting they shouldn't be like this even though they are. Expecting people to act like you is like expecting a cat to bark because you're in the mood for a dog. When you give up demanding harmony from the world, you begin to laugh at how seriously you once took everyone's behavior. And laughter, you see, is the sound of freedom returning. Once you stop expecting people to behave like you, another realization quietly dawns. You also stop needing them to agree with you. Disagreement is simply diversity in disguise. The same life that makes trees grow crooked makes minds grow in different directions. It's rather silly to demand that everyone see through your eyes when their windows open onto entirely different skies. This is where most suffering begins, not in what others do, but in our desperate urge to make them understand us, approve of us, or think like us. So before finding peace with others, we must loosen our grip on the idea of being right. Being right is one of our favorite addictions, the sweet intoxication of certainty. We argue, defend, and fight to protect a fragile little castle called my opinion. But what if being right isn't the point at all? What if life isn't a debate to be won, but a dance to be enjoyed? Notice, every time you need to be right, someone else must be wrong. And so the world divides itself neatly into enemies and fools, all invented by your need to feel secure. The truth does not belong to anyone. It plays hide and seek through all of us, and the moment you stop chasing it, it comes and sits quietly beside you. When you drop the obsession with being right, you begin to listen, not to prepare a counter-argument, but to truly hear. You discover that peace isn't born from victory. It comes when there is nothing left to defend. So let others cling to their certainties. Let them win. The one who no longer needs to win has already found the only thing worth keeping: peace. And when you no longer need to be right, something extraordinary happens. Other people's opinions lose their gravity. For so long, our sense of being right was tied to our sense of being somebody. And when that somebody feels threatened, even the gentlest disagreement sounds like thunder. But once you stop defending an image of yourself, the thunder becomes only noise, and the sky remains perfectly clear. You realize that what people say about you has nothing to do with you at all. It only echoes inside the walls of the identity you imagined. What people say about you is simply an echo of their own mind, a reflection bouncing off the glass they carry. If you mistake that reflection for your own face, you will spend your life trying to polish someone else's mirror. It's rather curious how much power we give to mere sound. Someone releases a few vibrations into the air, a label, a careless remark, a passing judgment, and suddenly your entire sense of self begins to tremble. You take their words, wear them like tattoos, and then wonder why you feel marked. But ask yourself, what exactly is being wounded? The sound passes, the air settles, and all that remains is your interpretation of what it meant. The insult doesn't live in their mouth. It survives only in your memory. If someone calls you foolish, that statement doesn't describe you. It describes their vision, their mood, their moment. Why let their passing weather become the climate of your inner world? To depend on another's praise or blame is to hang your heart on a wind chime. Every breeze becomes a storm. Freedom begins when you realize nothing anyone says about you has anything to do with who you truly are. Because who you are is not an opinion. It is the silence before every word, and silence blissfully cannot be offended. Yet this doesn't mean you must allow others to trample through your garden while you sit smiling in some naive spiritual trance. No, no. Love without intelligence becomes sentimentality, and peace without clarity turns into passivity. Protecting your energy isn't about fortifying walls. It's about recognizing where your garden ends and the wild forest begins. You may welcome visitors, but you need not let them pitch a tent in your soul. Most people confuse kindness with compliance. They believe to be spiritual is to say yes to everything, to be endlessly available, endlessly forgiving, endlessly exhausted. But even the sun sets, and even the ocean withdraws from the shore. Boundaries are not barriers. They are expressions of balance. When you say no, you're not rejecting someone. You're honoring the natural rhythm of your own being. Because if you give when you're empty, you're not offering love. You are offering resentment disguised as virtue. And here's the funny part. When you finally stop overextending yourself, life doesn't fall apart. It simply rearranges itself around your peace. And peace, unlike exhaustion, is not something you must earn. So protect your energy, not by closing your heart, but by remaining rooted within yourself, like a tree that bends with the wind yet never forgets where it stands. When you no longer feel the need to defend an image of yourself, you find something astonishing. The world becomes lighter, gentler, almost friendly, because nothing is heavier than the armor we wear for a self that never truly existed. When you no longer feel the need to defend an image, you find that silence begins to speak for you. Not the silence of avoidance or repression, but the silence that arises when there is simply nothing left to say. Most people imagine strength as volume, as assertion, as the firm voice that must be heard. Yet real strength often sounds like nothing at all, because truth does not argue. It simply is. When someone throws anger at you, and you do not throw it back, it falls to the ground like a stone that has lost its target. And in that quiet, something extraordinary happens. Their fury echoes only within their own mind, while yours remains still like a pond untouched by wind. Silence is not retreat. It is a refusal to participate in madness. It is not submission. It is sovereignty. It silently declares, I will not be drafted into your war. And when you stop reacting, the world reveals its true pace, slow, rhythmic, almost musical. You find you no longer need to win arguments or prove points. You need only be still enough to hear life humming beneath the noise, that subtle hum people spend entire lifetimes searching for, not realizing it has always been ringing through them. When you stop rushing to defend and explain, you begin to see others differently. They stop appearing as obstacles and start appearing as mirrors. Every irritation, every insult, every criticism is simply life reflecting your own unfinished business. Remarks sting only where you are already tender. So instead of blaming the messenger, you look at what within you has been touched, and you may discover the world was never against you. It was only pointing out the places where you still hold resistance. The people who bother you the most are often your best teachers in disguise, revealing the exact places where you are not yet free. And once you see this, you stop taking things personally. When someone tries to provoke you, a strange gratitude arises, not because you enjoy the jab, but because they've helped you find another knot you can now untie. That is the secret. People lose their power to disturb you the moment you realize they were never enemies, only mirrors polishing you back to clarity. And once you truly see others as mirrors, something softer unfolds. You stop needing the reflection entirely. You no longer cling to the role of the one who must learn, the one who must stay calm, or even the one who must not be bothered, for these too are masks, subtle attempts of the self to fix itself. Letting go is not something you do. It is what naturally happens when you tire of holding on. Just as a hand releases a stone when it grows weary of grasping, the heart releases its burdens when it grows tired of pretending to control life. Anger, resentment, and hurt are merely the mind's way of saying, I have not yet accepted what already is. But the moment you see the futility of resistance, when you stop demanding life to be polite, everything becomes beautifully simple. People say what they say. The world moves as it moves. And you remain undisturbed, like the sky behind all weather. To let go is not to forget, nor to forgive in any ceremonial way. It is to wake up and see there was never anyone separate to offend. The play goes on, the actors shout their lines, and you finally sit in the audience smiling, knowing it was all theater from the very beginning. And in that smile, you discover the secret you were searching for all along. Nothing and no one can bother you once you stop mistaking the play for real life.